this isn't going to be one of those creative openings. This is just going to be one of those straightforward openings. The title of the episode is How Did These Idiots Get This Job? No, this is not a political podcast. This is look, we're going to have this reaction in about a month when we're watching the draft, and we've thought about where these guys are supposed to go. We've seen all the mocks up to like the 12.0 on these things. And then for some reason, the Jacksonville Jaguars move back from 5 to 13 so a team can move up and take a guy you didn't even have in your first round. And you're going to ask yourself, how in the hell did these idiots get this job? So in honor of that realization and that event that hasn't happened yet, we're going to start taking a look at the NFL draft. Last week, we did a quick cursory look at the draft in our league, and it was quickly realized that outside of maybe the first few picks, we're all over the place in terms of where this draft is going to lay out, at least until we get a little bit better of intel from where we think the real NFL players are going to go. So RJ is with me tonight. We're going to go through a couple of mock drafts that the Giants, the Eagles, and the Panthers put together. I tried to work on one, and then work life took over, so apologies. But look, I put myself as sacrificial lamb last week for my mock and let you guys mock that. So I am riding your coattails this week. So as usual, RJ, thank you for letting me borrow your genius.
Yeah, no problem. I wouldn't necessarily call it genius. I just had the free time today to do it.
Well, I do appreciate it. So let me go ahead and share the Google sheet here. So this has all been shared link-wise on the league site. Same workbook as last week. We've got the mock draft that we had from 324 here. The Colts had a mock draft. The Panthers had a mock draft. And then we've got the mock NFL draft for today. So if you want to put a mock together, feel free to add a tab and put one in here. If you want to add to an NFL mock today, by all means, add to it. But we've got the Panthers, the Giants, and the Eagles who contributed. I think this one was all kind of straightforward. I don't think we had any trades in this one. But I think that's one that we'll add as we find ways to kill time over the next couple weeks. But no surprise at the top, we have Cam Ward going 101 to the Titans in yours, in Giants, and in Panthers. Everyone seems to have bought off on the Zach Wilson hype video that Cam Ward put out last week.
Yep, I'm sold on it. One long throw, he's the number one pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was actually watching his pro day while we were mocking and potting last week, and it was kind of like, yeah, well, this is clearly enough to get there. And then McShay did his kind of proclamation, like, if you look at the timing that the Giants signed Russell Wilson, it was clearly related to the fact that the Titans are moving out to 101 now. So, look, these guys supposedly do this for a living, and they seem to be pretty locked in on Cam going 1. So why not believe them? 2, I'm impressed. 3 different answers from 3 different people. We have you giving them Shedeur. The Giants saying they're going to take Abdul Carter to put next to Myles Garrett. And then Panthers, he's been putting this take out there, I feel like, all offseason, saying Jackson Dart's going to the Browns. I'm not going to lie. I actually have Dart above Sanders on my QB board right now. So I don't completely disagree with it, but none of the prevailing sentiment seems to be going that way. And unfortunately for the Browns, I don't feel like Andrew Berry is one that really goes against popular opinion, especially when he's probably in his last year if he doesn't make things work this year. So that said, I think the Dart is a hot take, but probably not something that comes to fruition. And I think it probably comes down to what your Giants have of Carter or Sanders.
Yep. I'm just going to assume with the recent comments of how they have whiffed on the Deshaun Watson deal. I think they will try to get back in and get another quarterback at a reasonable price so that they can, try to be a decent team by the time they get Watson off their books. So it just seems like it makes sense. They've already locked in Miles for a massive contract. I don't know if they want their, you know, debatably their two best players to be, linemen and still not know who's going to be their starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I would not fault them for wanting to make a strength a stronger strength and trade back in, but I get not being cute, especially when you've had as much trouble with the position as the Browns have. Then you and Panthers agreeing Carter, if he doesn't go 2, is definitely going 3 to the Giants, whereas the Giants take Travis Hunter for themselves in their mock. And again, I think we had seen Dable say something to this effect in his availability either today or yesterday, that don't rule out Travis Hunter for the Giants. So now they've got the dynamic duo of Winston and Wilson. They can further invest in their defense.
Yep. This might have been the hardest pick for me. They don't really need an edge rusher. They don't really need a defensive back. And there's nobody else that you could logically put like 3rd overall. I don't see another quarterback going there. I don't see anybody else really jumping ahead. And all of the ones that you could rationalize being a top 3 pick or like a surprise top 3 pick, they already have players at those positions. Like they're not taking a Mason Graham because they already have Dexter Lawrence. Their offensive line maybe, but they have Andrew Thomas at left tackle, and I don't think that they're necessarily looking to move him or move any of the guys with their like any of the offensive linemen that they would take with the 3rd pick. So Abdul Carter seems like the most logical. He could actually be the defensive end on that 4-3 or 3-4. I'm sorry. That would be a nice group of pass rushers. So difficult choice. I don't really know if this is going to be what they do, but it seems fine.
Yeah, agree. I mean, you've got the spot there. I can see saying that our long-term answer quarterback is not in this class, so take best player available. And I think if you polled people before people started looking too closely at the quarterbacks, like we always do, they'd say these are probably the 2 best guys available. So back to the non-consensus, we have the Pats, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, and Armand Membu. You're the Pats fan. What do you like so much about Membu?
Arm length. So Morgan Moses could probably be plugged back into left tackle because Membu's naturally a right tackle. But I'm just not a big fan of Campbell's arm length. I know his pro day his arms measured out longer, but if whoever takes him day 1, he'll have the shortest arms of any offensive tackle starting in the league. And that's just another one of those things. I don't think New England's going to take somebody like that with the 4th pick overall. They're going to take somebody that they feel is a little bit more of a sure thing.
Yeah, I think I got that. And I'm just kind of in the camp of, look, if you take arm length out of it, tackles of a certain size and a certain strength and a certain measurables who run under a 5-second 40, it's Trenton Wirfs, it's Trent Williams, and it's Will Campbell. So I know you take a small enough sample size and you can make anybody look good, but if your sample set includes Trent Williams and Trenton Wirfs right now, I think I'm willing to just take the guy who's part of that sample size. So I'm big time in the Will Campbell as my top tackle in this class. I'm happy to be wrong and praying he falls to 11 to my team, but I'm not expecting to be too lucky with that.
I'm a huge fan of the top three linemen in this class. So Campbell's the only one that he has that minor question mark. Everything else is fine. Banks, will get to him at some point, but I think very highly of him also. So I don't think anybody taking an offensive lineman in the early part of this draft. I don't think any of them are doing too terrible.
Yeah. Jags, Will Johnson or Mason Graham. Did they overpay a corner this offseason? I don't think they did.
Let me look. Nope. Tyson Campbell and Jerry Jones are projected to be their two starters. Campbell's good. Jones
I
is probably
I think Johnson deserves to be the first in this class. I know Hunter is technically also a corner, but treating Johnson as corner one is not a slight for me in any way, shape, or form. So I'm okay with those. And then I like the Mason Graham pick for the Jags. I think he is that good. You need a stabilizing presence. I think the other option here is I wouldn't be shocked to see if Membu's here, I could see him going to the Jags because, at the end of the day, Cohen had Wirfs kind of anchoring his line in Tampa. I could see him saying, I need my bookend tackle here to kind of build around as I overinvest in my line, which I would say Tampa has a better line than a lot of people give him credit for. So that said, I would not be shocked to see them go offensive tackle, but that's, a take I can make. Unfortunately, I didn't put it on paper, so it means a little bit less.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable. They do have two tackles that they've taken relatively early. Their left tackle was taken in the second round a few years ago, and their right tackle was taken in the first 2 years ago. So I don't know if they're at the point where they are looking to replace those guys. But they are, when you do look at that offense, they are probably the two spots where they haven't addressed anything. So it's logical. That defensive tackle, cornerback, those seem to be the three spots where, you could probably take somebody very early and expect them to just take over a job.
Yep. Let's see. Down to the Raiders. So I was just flipping through Twitter as I was going through some of this stuff. And apparently the new GM for the Raiders, Drydeck, told a podcast today that his son has told him if they don't take Ashton Jeanty at 6, he's going to tell the owner of the Raiders that he's doing a bad job. I don't know how old the kid is, but a running back at 6, yes, I think Jeanty might be that special. I get it, but I fully support going Travis Hunter, Barron, or Ted McMillan potentially over him there. I think, yeah.
Yeah, Jeanty is somebody that I have mocked to the Raiders while messing around with simulators, but those are only in the times when Hunter and Tet are already gone, and I don't really see Hunter and Tet going before 6, or at least both of them. So I just can't see Jeanty going that early anymore.
Yeah, I don't blame you. He did a hell of a pro day, but yeah, I don't blame you for that one. And then Barron, I feel like this is as early as I've seen him on mocks. I think you've got him a little bit later in yours, and we'll find where Panthers has him a little bit later on too. But it is the Raiders, and they have been known to go completely off board to take their guy. But Jets, Membu, Warren, Campbell. Two of you saying they're taking an offensive tackle. Giants saying Tyler Warren goes here. I like Warren. I feel like this is a little early for him. So I like the tackle pick. Membu feels like a Jet. But with him being gone and Campbell still being here, I think you've got probably the right order of it, saying if the next tackle going off the board is going to be a Jet, it's going to be Will Campbell.
Yep. Yeah. Either of those can be switched around. I have no issue with the order that the Panthers have, but I think we're in agreement. Like those are probably the spots where tackles go if they are going to go in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Panthers in real life: James Pierce, Ted McMillan, Will Johnson. Well, Pierce is spelled wrong, but obviously I like Pierce a lot. I've said that on previous podcasts. And they need a player like that since they traded Burns away a couple years ago. Tet, even though they said that they are still sold the get could be at number one, a guy like Tet makes a lot of sense for them as a complimentary. And then Will Johnson, they just paid Horn a shitload of money. So putting someone and investing to double down the position like Will Johnson, it's not the worst idea, but I am a little surprised by it. So Saints, Emeka Egbuka, Sanders, and Tet McMillan. So they've got Olave, they've got Shaheed, and they're going to spend a top 10 pick on receiver.
Is Shaheed going to be back this year?
I thought he was. He was, because he got hurt in like week 3 or 4, I want to say. Am I incorrect?
He did get hurt early in the year. You are correct on that.
Yeah, I just feel like.
Yeah, I feel like wide receiver is still a need for them. Like, I don't think that there might be some like glaring holes that I'm missing on like the line where I may perceive somebody as better or like a defensive back, but it just feels like they're going to be one of those teams that's probably taking best player available, and best players available are probably going to be some of the wide receivers, at least this early.
That's fair. 10, 2 Genties and a Pierce. They've got Swift. They've got Roschon, and then Genty here at 10. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. Another team that's done a really good job of already like filling a lot of the needs that they had in free agency. You could rationalize like another wide receiver, but I don't really know what else. Like you feel like I don't know what else there's a huge necessity for where you can like logically take that this early. Sure, they probably need a safety. Like, do you think Bayard's still good? Like that's debatable. So like you could do that, but are you really going to use the 9th pick to take? Or I'm sorry, not the 9th pick, the 10th pick to take a safety?
No, I think for me, I see this as where either Banks goes as they complete their investment in their O-line, where Warren goes, or They hit either Pierce like Giants did, or whoever their favorite D end is, whether that's Pierce, whether it's Stewart, whether it's Mike Williams, whoever. I feel like that's where the Bears are kind of focused on right now, rather than running back at 10. But again, Genty does look like he's going to be that special. But running back at 10 in the real NFL draft, not even Goose would do something that silly.
They heard that.
Yeah, you meant to. Glad you could do your quarterly join of the pod.
Yeah. Well, though to be fair, when you talk about the running backs to the Bears, I mean, Ben Johnson did oversee the Jahmyr Gibbs pick, right? Pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
So wild card potentially.
That is true.
He went all in on a running back way before you would think someone would do it. So he's running the team now, right?
I mean, does that mean by necessity he has to take a middle linebacker in this draft too in the first round?
It probably. Do they have 2 first-round picks?
I mean,
no.
If they don't, he can probably do something about that.
You could probably trade a future for an MLB, right?
Yeah. You know what? Worked out pretty well for him in Detroit.
Except for that guy's not even really playing that many snaps. But, yeah. I agree with you. The Bears should not take a running back, but
they are the Bears.
They are the Bears.
I don't think anybody should take a running back this early, but somebody's going to cave and take Genty. They have told themselves that he's a generational talent, because apparently a generational talent comes out every year at running back, and somebody's just going to overvalue him.
I was thinking about that on the train ride up yesterday, that everyone talks about generational talent way too interchangeably. But I was thinking about, like, in terms of a quarterback who's supposed to be a generational talent, who actually makes it through and does what he's supposed to do at the pro level, that is kind of generational. Like, if you think about when the last time was that a high school phenom quarterback that actually made it through college with good production, was an early NFL draft pick, and paid off. Like, is the last one Luck? And he was even a short stint.
It depends on what you consider Lawrence's professional career so far.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All the way from high school. Because a lot of the first round, even 1.01 quarterbacks have been late senior year bloomers, like Joe Burrow, right? I mean, guys like that.
Yeah, or Kyler Murray.
Murray.
Is he going to play baseball or a shortstop someplace, or is he going to play Pop Warner football?
I mean, the next guy could potentially be Arch Manning, right? Who has been considered to be the guy for so many years and could become the guy. But yeah, it might be Luck since before that. That's a good one right there.
It's interesting how the hype is going to be for quarterbacks, because like Quinn started the whole we know their names the second they're college players because of how much money they're making. So it'll be interesting. I think our perception will have to change. There will be a lot more Andrew Lucks than there should be. I'll put it like that.
Well, because everyone wants to say, "Oh yeah, I was in on this guy before, and I knew this guy when."
Right.
But anyways, all right. As my team tries to make itself after having everyone leave at free agency, Mason Graham, Armand Membu, or Kelvin Banks Jr. Basically consistent with the plan that, for the love of God, please address the line in some way, shape, or form. And I would not be upset with any of these picks. But again, I have hopes of grander things like Will Campbell or otherwise.
You could
But-
go offensive line, cornerback too. I feel like if you go bonus wide receiver again, someone needs to get specked in the face.
There's a real chance that this is where we take Luther Burden and say that he is our replacement for Debo. But I would agree. If we go, I love Luther. I would be thrilled because I love Luther and he played for my team, but I'd also be terrified that we we're doing something like that. Speaking of perfect fit of scheme, college, and team, Panthers having Cowboys taking Matthew Golden is phenomenal. I'm not sure whether I like that or Giants pairing Ashton Genty here. Just the sheer fantasy-gasm that people would have if Genty goes to the Cowboys would be astronomical.
Yeah. I mean, it would be Zeke Elliott all over again. For sure. 1.01. Got to trade 5 firsts for him before he takes a snap. Still
I
gonna
mean,
be
that's what it would take, right?
still gonna be a bad team though. Still gonna be a bad team.
Well, anyone who's taking a running back that early is not going to be a good team. Like, it just does not work to invest in a running back like that and have good things happen to your team.
Unless you're the Lions and you take Jahmyr Gibbs pretty early.
I mean, the stat is still there. A team has not drafted a quarterback, a running back that highly and won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I don't think it's a good idea, but if it happened, it would be like the fantasy bonanza of all time.
Yes, this would be one of those where, again, this would be fun and is a direct parallel to the Jahmyr Gibbs, where this is a terrible pro selection. This is not what the pro team should do. It's a bad idea, but it's fantastic for everyone playing fantasy football.
I mean, at least it's fantastic for everybody who has the 1.01.
Well, again, it removes all doubt from the situation. Any idea of, well, maybe a quarterback in Superflex, or maybe Cam Ward, or maybe this. It's like, no. At this point, it is Genty. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Let's move on to the next conversation.
That's definitely feels like a very chalky Cowboys pick.
Today, Barron going to the Dolphins, or Will Campbell, or Malachi Starks. Well, I guess we're kind of in that part of the draft where I don't know what the Dolphins are doing.
Do they?
Yeah, they need help in the secondary. And like, I'm looking at the depth chart right now, and I don't believe Ashton Davis is going to be a starting safety. But they have a lot of things that they need to address.
I mean, is there is Tyreek even going to be on the team? He's in the news all day today.
Well, hopefully for something good.
Well, I mean, it is April 1st, so a lot of things got reported today that may get retracted.
That's fair.
I don't know. They need a corner, so I wouldn't be shocked. I agree. They probably need to add a safety. I don't know. I like Starks. This feels a little high for me in terms of the first safety off the run this draft. I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know either. Like, receiver seems wrong here too.
Yeah, it's not just that they need a safety. It's what team would make the rational decision to take a safety this early? It seems like a Dolphins type of move, right?
It does track.
I think corner makes the most sense, but
Yeah, and it may just be my assessment of corners. I think there are like two that are you can justify in the first round, and then everybody else you're kind of I don't want to say reaching, but they're kind of like first, second round grade type of players.
right.
So I might not value enough corners high enough to where like my mock's a little messed up because of that.
I also think we've hit that part of the draft where a lot of, I think, ranking services have said that there's 15 players they see as first round picks here.
Yeah.
We're probably at that point where we have an idea who those three left are. None of them are things that the Dolphins really need. So I'd say, do you take one of those players just because they're the best value? Do you move down? Or do you take somebody that's a little bit more aligned to any position you need? But this is where you really start seeing the reaches start.
Well, yeah, and 13 is where you see someone who really wants to jump the Colts for a tight end, maybe, because Colts are so chalky for tight end. If you really want one, maybe you move up here.
Yeah.
If you're desperate, because Warren, or I think Warren's the guy, but you know, that might be somewhere where you clearly want to jump because you think the Colts are going there 100%.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think, and like we're only 13 picks into it, but I think the ones where we have like major discrepancies like this or drastic difference in opinions, these might be the spots where like the NFL teams feel the same way and trade out.
Right.
Like we're just doing, you know, if the team's still at this spot, this is what they're taking.
Yeah. Miami trading out of 13 feels like a interesting spot for a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Colts being chalky at tight end. We have three tight ends going. Tyler Warren twice, Cortland Loveland once. Has Warren already gone in Giants mock? Yeah, he went 7 to the Jets. So best tight end remaining on people's boards go here. I agree. It's probably Warren who's the top tight end, but I still think Loveland pre-year probably we had the case. But it may be closer than others give it a chance to admit.
Yeah, I think they're both decent. I think both of them get a little bit of a bump just due to the recent success of tight ends, like especially like younger, early drafted tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
So the Brock Bowers effect, if you will. But I do think both of them will be exceptional NFL players.
Did Penn State have their pro day yet? I'm curious what Warren tests out at.
That's a good question.
I will be shocked if he doesn't run a 4.4.
Yeah, it happened yesterday.
But
No.
did he actually run?
I have no idea. Let me look at it.
I mean, the Colts have been wasting in the dearth of tight end dead space for what, 6 years now? 7 maybe?
I will not stand for the slander against Mo Alley Cox.
I apologize. They have.
He was productive by necessity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it seems like a pick, but the Colts could go a lot of ways, but everybody wants them to take a tight end. That's the fantasy desire.
No Warren 40 at Penn State.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the Falcons. and everyone's got them taking a D end. Mark Stewart, Mike Williams, or Mike Green. I feel like this is Panthers saying, I like this player more than everyone else, so I'm going to put him 10 spots before he really should be considered in the draft. But in reality, this is probably the player that the real-life Raiders are taking at 6.
That's just mean, but yes. Falcons got to probably go defensive end, though. They don't really have anything there at all.
What do you mean? They totally signed the guy from San Francisco when they cut him.
Oh, yeah. What's his name? Yeah, $20 million worth of Leonard Floyd.
Yep. Which not alike.
I mean, that is true. What's his name from New England? A free agent still, or was that his 2-year contract?
I think they extended him when they traded for him last year.
I mean, it is a defensive-minded coach, so you would think that maybe they go defense here, given their issues.
I would agree. You invested heavily in the offense the last couple of drafts. You got quarterback supposedly figured out now. They went out on that defense, but that would just make sense.
Yeah, their left tackles are Falcons tackles are established vets in the league. Like, there's nothing else that they really need other than defense, and there's some talent at defensive end. So, yeah, that's very likely what they're doing.
It looks like Matt Judon is a free agent.
No.
No, I'm trying to figure that. Yep, yeah, it looks like he is. I'm at Spot Track right now. Yeah, 2025 UFA. So it looks like he's not signed. So it's just Floyd, and I think that Smith Williams guy was a free agent too. They are pretty bereft at defensive end.
Yeah, Morgan.
Yes, my boy Arnold Ebiketie.
Yep, Ebiketie, Fox, Floyd. Those are all like the outside linebacker and defensive end roles.
Yeah, so it would be to me. It'd be shocking if they didn't go DE.
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna still add 1 or 2 more vets too.
I mean, they'll probably bring Judon back, but he's just not signed yet.
Yep. All right. Cardinals: Walter Nolan, Matt Nolan, and Derek Harmon. Harmon, who is he? He's the D tackle from Oregon, right?
They just signed Calais Campbell
Mhm.
today. I feel like they are loaded up on D right now.
Yeah. I mean, I have Harmon more as like a defensive tackle, which still Calais Campbell probably can fit that role, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
because they got Sweat, they re-signed Browning, they drafted last year Oljari, they gave Dalvin Tomlinson like $19 million guaranteed. They just gave Calais Campbell a bunch of money. Who it wasn't their first round pick, a DT too?
Darius Robinson.
Yeah, and they've given up just a ton of money to DT and DE in the past year. I don't even know where all these guys are going to even play now that they got Campbell in there too.
Well, I mean, that's what Arizona does every year, is constantly look at their linebacking core or safety or kind of their defense and say, they've got 4 of the same player. What the hell are they going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, they like. I feel like you really look at them. They really could go wide receiver here. I mean, they got Marvin Harrison. What else do they got? They got Marvin Harrison. You know, they got that guy they took in like the third round a while ago that Bucks owns now.
Michael Wilson.
Oh,
Yes.
are you asking what they actually have?
Yeah, they got
Zay Jones. That's it. Like
yeah,
that's
they got
their three.
Harrison. They got
Wilson.
they got the guy I used to own too. Their Dortch.
Yeah.
Dortch. I mean, like, to be honest, a wide receiver for them at that spot with who's available, that could be tempting, right?
Yeah.
I have them take like we don't go into the second round, but I had them taking a wide receiver with their next pick. There's just a lot more wide receivers that you can justify taking in the second round. That like if you're taking a wide receiver this early that isn't like Tet, it's kind of a reach.
Well, what about Burden right there or
No,
someone like
Burke
that?
makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I completely agree, but everybody is projecting a lot of them for the second round.
Sure.
Like, I would love to see Burden go in the first round, but everybody seems to think he's going to be a second round.
Right. I mean, I'm just looking at our lads depth chart right now. You got Calais Campbell at D, Dalvin Tomlinson at NT, Darius Robinson, Baron Browning, Josh Sweat. They signed Justin Jones last year, Bilal Nichols last year, Dustin Stills. They've got Zaven Collins. I mean, you got a lot of D line in there right now, and you just paid for a bunch of it. You just paid for a bunch of that D line. So going D line, I mean, maybe they double down as a defensive coach.
I mean,
Who's the best corner available here?
who's the best what?
Corner.
Well, I would still have Barron available at this point, so like you could see that being a thing. But I think they're pretty happy with Murphy Bunting, and that's probably about it.
They got Murphy Bunting and Max Melton slated to start maybe right now with Garrett Williams. So you could take corner. You got Jalen Thompson and Buda Baker at safety, so you're feeling pretty good there.
Yep.
I really feel like when you're looking at Zay Jones as one of your starting three wide receivers, that's where maybe you're feeling like the most naked.
Yep. I mean, I wouldn't hate if they addressed their inside linebacker right now. I just don't know if there's one that's worthy of like a mid-first type of pick.
Because and right now, I mean, our lads has Mac Wilson and Akeem Gaithers starting for them,
Right.
which is not great.
I think Akeem Gaithers, like, if I'm not mistaken, his contract was basically like a backup contract.
Yeah, I think they just penciled him in because.
Yep, vet gets the priority.
But you could go MLB, you could go WR. The line feels, especially with the Campbell signing today, I just feel like you kind of maybe think they've got a lot of depth there.
Yeah, with adding Campbell at this point, it seems far more rational that they go elsewhere.
Because I mean, they gave Campbell $5.5 million. They gave Tomlinson way too much money at $19 million.
Yeah, that was a bit much for Tomlinson.
I know, and I mean it's over I think 2 years, but it still feels like a lot for a nose tackle who doesn't really do much.
Yes and no. That's one of those positions where just the vets get they start for as long as they choose to.
But they had just signed last year Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols to bigger deals. And Dante Stills is like a decent young guy too.
Yeah. I just think that because of a lot of those signings, they've whiffed a lot, and
they're
sure,
going volume.
Right. Defensive back and wide receiver are just as logical, but I can in that same way, I can see that just with the talent that's available at defensive line in this
Yeah.
draft, I could see them trying it.
Yeah, for sure. But them going like a Luther Burden type pick, that might be super interesting in my opinion.
Yep. All right. Bengals, guard or DN? I guess the question here is, I mean, Hubbard retired. They got to replace him, so that makes sense.
Hendrickson still wants to be traded. Trey still wants to be traded.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need more help on their defense than anything else, right?
Yeah, I've made my opinions on offensive line play in the league. Like I don't think it's very good. I don't think this class improves it very much. So I don't think you use an early pick like this on a guard that you could potentially find in the third round.
Yeah, and I think Pierce makes a lot of sense on the other side of a guy like Trey. Trey does a lot of things really well. I think Pierce is both a good guy for him to be mentored by, and then also some versatility on that line to do a couple other things with it. So I like it.
Yeah.
My expectation with the Bengals is they're always going to take the premium positions with their early rookie picks. Like even if it's redundant, just because that's a way that they get a premium position at a cheaper price.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And I think their need for defensive end is just so obvious.
Right. They can go out and pay an above average guard or, a lineman, maybe even a tight end, but they can't go out and buy like a high end edge or like any real prominent defensive lineman. So like they'll probably just draft those players even if it's not a massive need.
And supposedly they're talking to Hendrickson right now about an extension. So
Yeah.
that might be their focus on the DE side.
Right.
Yep. Seahawks taking Calvin Banks. That's probably Calvin Banks. Nick Emmanwari or Tyler Booker. Let's see this go up for something real fast.
Seahawks going offensive line makes a lot of sense. No matter who it is.
So the other fact of the matter is the name we haven't said for Panthers that Archie and I pointed out earlier, Shedeur Sanders is still on the board for Panthers right now too.
Whew. Wow. I feel like he would have been taken already, huh?
Yeah, I don't.
He won't go past 21 though, probably. Through some
No.
past Steelers.
Not in real life, but let's see. We have Bucks taking Jihad Campbell, Tyler Bucks taking Walker. The linebacker need is real.
Yes.
Broncos, Luther Burden, Aguka, or Colson Loveland. So they just signed Ingram, play tight end.
Pretty decent amount of guaranteed money too. For at least 2 years.
They have Sutton. Mims is getting a lot of credit. Not credit, but attention to someone they signed when they drafted early in this regime. Troy Franklin was a third rounder last year?
Third or fourth. Might have been a fourth.
I get it, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this were Amari. They let Javonte walk.
I mean, going WR here makes sense for them. They haven't extended, their veteran yet. It's pretty wide open. They go BPA at a WR here. That makes their defense is solid. Their defense is very solid.
Yeah,
They spent money on the defense too. They brought in some bodies by paying
Brought
them.
in Greenlaw, brought in Hufanga, yes. Picking us apart.
Yeah, those their DEs, their edge guys were already pretty solid.
yeah, I kind of screwed this pick up. I forgot that they signed Ingram. If I went back and did it, I'd probably swap him, Loveland and Golden, because I could see Golden going to the Broncos if he's available at 20.
Yeah.
I think he makes a lot of sense there too. All right, we have two. This is where Dart goes off the board for 2 of our 3 mocks. Dart went off at 2 in Panthers, and clearly Kenneth Grant is his pick. Yeah. I don't have much more to say about it than that.
I mean, Steelers going QB here makes too much sense.
Yeah.
So, best QB available,
Exactly.
unless are they going to have Rodgers? We don't know. Sounds like maybe they're going to have Rodgers. If they don't have Rodgers, are they trading up? Probably, right? I mean, they're not going to go with what they've got at quarterback right now.
It wouldn't make sense for them to, but
Not with the team that they're paying for, at least, right?
Mason, but they're totally comfortable with Mason Rudolph being the starter.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Let's see. Trey Harris is a first-round pick.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know who Trey Harris is.
He is a wide receiver that you'll probably want in like a year or two. Like he is the epitome of a goose wide receiver. Definitely.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I mean, I see that Hampton call. Like, I could definitely see Harbaugh going running back late in the first. After going defense and offensive line in his first draft. What do they got at wide receiver right now?
Nothing.
They got the Chargers got they got the rookie who was awesome, guy from Georgia.
Donkey.
Yeah, they got Ladd. They got just a Ladd. He's awesome. He's great. They re-signed Mike Williams. They've got the failed first-round draft pick that Seahawks owns. It's funny that I can think of the fake GM owners better than the names of the real players.
All right. Diamond, I can't pronounce his name, is who Panthers has for the Packers. He's from Boston College. I like him a lot. But
Yeah, I do too.
And they could use the defensive end.
Yep. And then you have Jahdae Barron going there. I don't hate that either. I think defense is where they should focus.
Yep.
Trey Amos or Nick Emarwari for the Vikings. Derek Harmon or Gray Zabel. That's a great name, but who is he?
Offensive lineman.
Yeah, RJ, you got to put what position these guys play.
I know.
Next time you write this, I feel like it's not as helpful.
Yeah, I probably should have done that. What is he? A tackle? He's an offensive lineman. He's one of those like plug and play O lineman guys.
And then Demarius Knight Jr. from South Carolina to the Rams, or Jihad Campbell. Yeah, I feel like they could use a linebacker. I think there's a lot of pressure being put on some of the guys they've been, quote, developing. Plus, this is probably the right range for him to go in the actual draft.
Yeah.
God, if the Ravens get Michael Williams at the 27th pick, good for them. Or Donovan Ezirike. I think those are them adding in that makes a lot of sense. And those are two really good options for that.
Yeah. The Ravens have such an embarrassment of riches at basically every position. You question why they're allowed to get first round picks every year.
Yeah, you do. But they're just going to go BPA no matter what it is.
Yep.
They're going to just identify the best player available and take him. They don't care what he is. I think, in my opinion, that's how they get good.
Yeah. I agree.
Just get the best guy and let him develop, and then put him when
because
the time comes.
The team they got, like, they're not rushing anybody to necessarily start at any of their positions right now. So just come and learn.
Yeah. But I view Donovan as like that at this point. I think there's like 9 like edge guys that are worthy of first round picks. So, there's very few times where they aren't going to be the best player available.
Yeah. I definitely could see them going defensive back because they had issues back there this past year. So if that BPA is someone who plays corner or safety, that might be a particular interest for them.
Yep, they could definitely pull like another Kyle Hamilton type situation if the best safety or like one of the better corners is still available. They'll just do that.
Yeah. Like that Nick Emenwari guy, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
If he's around, I think that would make a lot of sense.
That's a fun name. Princely Uma Myelin. Giants not taking a bunch of these picks, but saying Trevion Henderson's going to the Commanders at 29. He has Omarion going at 22 to the Chargers to be behind Najee Harris, and then Trevion going 29 to the Commanders to be behind Brian Robinson.
Trevion Harris, like he skipped a bunch of picks and then just put Hendo in there.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Sure.
The Bills get Travis Hunter. No fucking way.
Yeah.
I like the receiver pick, RJ. I feel like Igbuga would be duplicative with Shakir.
Yeah, you got to look at what they've signed so far, right? They paid Palmer. They extended Shakir. They've got Curtis Samuel. What else do they have? They've got more than just that. There's their second round pick from last year, Keon Coleman. They're sitting kind of heavy at wide receiver right now, aren't they?
They all sound like Robins to a Batman that they've yet to find.
Sure.
So I can still see them.
They did pay Shakir like a Batman though. Kind of.
That is true.
They've also sprung off that because they actually said when they got look, like having an alpha here doesn't make sense for our offense. We do better when we've got Robins.
Right.
I think Judkins makes a lot of sense here. Let him be the Thunder to the Hook Lightning. They've got to try and extend him if they can do so. They've got a nice tandem. If they can't, they've got the replacement that they can kind of stick in there if James Cook walks.
They have spent a ton of money on players, wide receivers, linebacker. I mean, they've extended a ton of guys, corners. I feel like they're going to try to go for a position of need that they can address cheaply. Offensive line. something that they haven't paid a lot of money for just this year. Sorry, RJ, cut you off.
No, you're fine. I like their offensive line. I think it's pretty good. They're another team that's just embarrassment of riches. They are a good team. That's why they're drafting late in the first. So it's hard to really, look at it and go, oh, this is a perfect guy that'll step in and do take a job or be productive on this caliber of a team.
Yeah, they did take some old mercenary type defensive line guys.
Yeah.
And I could see, and they did extend Rousseau and gave him a lot of money, but the rest of that line is, hey, come play for us. We'll give you some money in the latter half of your career, even if you were suspended for PEDs.
Even better if you're suspended for PEDs.
They got two guys. They got two guys that are suspended for performance-enhancing drugs, right? So they might need to go D-line just out of necessity.
That's fair. Yeah, though none of those line isn't necessarily a position of need. Everybody's ancient, so next year, the year after, it will be a massive need. Who didn't I have on my board?
They gave that Rams guy a fair bit of cash, I thought, for not being very good.
I don't know, Hocked or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce.
Hoked, whatever his name is. They gave him a bunch of money. PFF hates him, and they gave him a fair bit of more money, and then he tested positive for steroids and is missing the first 6 to 8 games.
Oh, did he really? Okay.
Yeah. Him and the guy from the Steelers did it at the same time.
Ogunjobi.
Yeah, yeah. It's like they had the same guy that was giving them the stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, I know I don't have Kenneth Grant off the board yet, if I'm not mistaken. So, on my mock, I could see the Bills taking him in that type of a scenario.
Yeah, they definitely laid down about a solid 16, 17 million in 2025 for Ogunjobi and Hawked. And both those guys are not available game one. So they're going to have to pivot. Pivot.
Speaking of pivot, the Chiefs taking their replacement for Travis Kelce at 31 here. Colson Loveland.
You own their replacement, Mike. Come on. You own their replacement. Let's not get crazy.
If they got Loveland at the 31st pick, they might have to consider that.
Yeah, I think if you can get Loveland there, I think you might need to take it. I mean, you think teams who want Loveland, Chargers, maybe, right? If the Colts pass on them, Kelsey's obviously done after this year. It's over.
Yeah, he's got to. He's got the well, so we can propose to Taylor, and then they can run off.
Dude, he's got the best sugar mama of all time. You were just in Happy Gilmore too. You gotta stop while you're ahead.
Yeah, you're getting paid way too much money for your podcast. It's time.
Yeah, he literally
you heard something.
He literally said he had to sacrifice money to keep playing football because he could make more money not playing football.
Yeah, when you've got that and you've still got your health, it's time to go.
Yeah. But yeah, Loveland would be great. I mean, I don't know what else are you thinking that the Chiefs need there? They signed safety, they signed linebacker, they went for some edges.
You see them going D tackle. I feel like Chris Jones is starting to get up there. You don't necessarily need to replace Nose, but adding tackle might not be the worst thing to do in that system. They lost one of their corners to trade. So corner might not be the worst thing to go add.
Their wide receivers keep getting arrested, so you never know.
Is there a Georgia wide receiver they can draft?
Yeah.
Because, if you're going to draft recklessly, you got to grab them from Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, they're one of the. I mean, it's like all these late teams. You could go anyway because your team is strong. You have a lot of great options, and you're just going to go with what fits the best in that moment. Like, what are the Eagles like the next pick? Like, what do the Eagles really want? I mean, they could take so many things too. Granted, I think they would love a guy like Loveland at 32.
Mhm.
Get rid of Goddard. Not Joe Dirt. Goddard.
Good old Joe Dirt.
I mean, that could be a spot for the third tight end off the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see someone reaching for Fanton or something like that there. Realistically, I mean, we're probably going to see somebody trade back in to get that fourth quarterback.
Get that
Or-
fifth-year option for sure. Yeah, right.
I feel like that's always kind of what gets looked at there. But no, I like what you guys put together here. I think it's a solid set of players to start with from a mock, and some really interesting situations. I think everyone's got something that I hadn't thought about, and then there's a couple in there that I think probably get revisited. But we've got plenty of time between now and the actual draft. But we are over an hour in. Wow. Haven't even started talking trades yet.
Definitely got to go over those.
Yeah, a couple of bigger ones there that I guess people want to talk about. Let's see. So last week's pod was Monday. So we have 18 trades. Panthers giving up 526, 529, and a third next year for 318. Yeah, I mean, trying to move stuff for this year. So makes
just
sense.
3 5s for a third.
No, future third.
Oh, future third. Okay, yeah.
Two fives and a future third.
Oh.
Buccaneers finally wearing me down and giving me the 2 fits that he gets as part of that deal with 330, Minka Fitzpatrick and Harrison Phillips for Derek Brown in my fourth.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, I thought that was a good deal for Bucks.
Yeah.
He's a good player. Good player. Buying off an injury.
Yeah. Again, I'm moving off of. I double invested in D tackle, and I decided to move off them both at the same time. So Brown going to the Buccaneers, Wilkins going to the Panthers, with 415 for Jaden Hicks, 313 and 331. So
yeah, I like that one for you.
Yep.
I like that one for you. Get the safety. Get some picks.
yeah, I took my double down strength at D tackle, made it a double down at safety, which again, neither is a position that's hard to come by in our league, but still.
You could replace Wilkins with one of those thirds, and the player that you get would probably have a more reasonable contract than 5 years.
Let's see. Pat's giving up Jack Gibbons to move back 1 pick. Right after Gibbons,
Salary dump. I mean,
yeah, but didn't Gibbons just sign with the Pats?
yeah, he did. He did, but it's crowded. It's crowded. They got Christian Ellis. They signed Spillane.
Yep.
They cut Bentley, but they still have the guy that got catfished, I think. No, maybe
Why?
not. No, yeah. So they got a crowded linebacker room there.
Keely Ringo must have been either a taxi theft, or was that a taxi theft, or you just gave him away?
I just had signed him. Yeah, I was stolen. Props to Kele. You take it to you, my man.
All right. And then my
rotating continues. Bo Nix, Zach Ertz, and Ben Sinnott for CeeDee Lamb, Noah Gray, and Jared Wiley. Falcons didn't want to completely rely on Richardson, but isn't going to give up on him. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to add CD for Bo. And then it's no secret I like Jared Wiley. I was trying to get him last year in the draft. Gray is a pain in the butt, but he's he's holding out so I can keep him on IR for the time being and support some of my movement. So I'm happy with that deal.
Yeah, that one is a hard one for me because I like Bo. I thought you got Bo cheap, so it wasn't as big of a deal, but CD being like what, 26 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And Bo being 4, like I struggled with that, but I balanced it out with the fact that you didn't pay that much for Bo, so it was kind of a wash.
Yeah, and again, nothing stays for long on my team. So
no, that's for sure. Yeah, that is known, and you can't make your definitive decisions about Mike's team until the trade deadline.
This is true. Christian Ellis, as mentioned, signed with the Patriots here, moving for the latest non-comp third and 403. So Chargers kind of buying a bunch of shit around the edges these days. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't want to be rude as a fellow division member, but not having any future picks for him, I'm not sure what he's going for here. Tough situation to be in.
Well, again, and I've sent him offers for, hey, break down some of the things you have, and here's some picks. I think he's taking the approach of he's buying those picks and he's buying those things now at sort of rates he is comfortable with. So, he's not going to be the worst team next year.
In the entire league or in the division?
The league.
Yeah,
probably both.
I mean, I just feel like that team should own its picks, but
Broncos is tanking hard.
Very hard, absolutely.
Raiders is a newer owner who I think is still trying to do something with their team, but
yeah.
There are iterations this year where the Chargers finished second in the West.
Yeah,
I will say
for sure.
There are circumstances like when you get offered the trade that he got for Brian Thomas, you give up your first regardless of how well positioned you are.
Yeah, and that's just that trade, and I think Panthers is going to look back in hindsight and regret giving up Chargers' first, but Worthy wasn't bad either. We just had that kind of bad news bears going on in that moment. I think the biggest indictment pick for Chargers is going to be paying what he did for Coulson. He paid a lot for a linebacker.
Yeah.
But
who knows? Especially when that's a little bit crowded.
That one's definitely clouded, but I feel like if you're paying a first for a linebacker, maybe it shouldn't be clouded. It should be pretty straightforward.
All right. So speaking of paying up, Tuli Poloto, 118, and Darius Slayton for Michael Parsons and 2/5. I've gone back and forth on this a bunch of times. I think at the end of the day, I like it. I think if you divorce yourself from the name Micah Parsons, Tuli and Micah are not going to put up the 118 different in points next year.
No.
And Tuli's a shitload cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely.
If Parsons actually can perform what he's capable of, he's a potential 300-point D end, and that is a difference maker. And I'd say there's very few ends in our league who could do that.
for me, the biggest thing when I looked at that trade was just what was going on that required those 2/5 to be in this trade. Like how much of a role did that play? Was the trade almost going to be derailed because the fifths weren't included? You know, like that. I giggled about the fifths because I thought it was funny.
I'd like to think that there was a conversation and somebody's like, I'll do it without the fifths. And then at some point somebody's like, you're really not going to take this over the fifths?
There are a couple owners who do that to me consistently. Like, we'll have a deal, like it looks like a fair offer, and then they will last minute reject and add like a fifth or like the 529 to it. It's like, are you serious? Like, really? You're going to potentially walk away from this for the 529? Like, I get it. It's a fair negotiating technique that
No,
it shouldn't make a big difference, but it's pathetic.
Yeah.
It's a terrible like negotiating tactic because it goes both ways. It's like you're not gonna accept it because of that. You're just gonna ask for this minimal amount just to try to squeeze me on it. Like,
yeah, it's definitely one of those moments where you don't necessarily want to do it, but just out of principle. The fifths don't really matter, but the principle of it seems kind of off. But I do think that Cowboys finally made a trade to get off of Micah, got value for doing so. So it was good for him. The consolidation for Giants kind of makes sense, but I feel like with the trades he makes after this one, he's kind of getting a little shallow on the depth end. So he might pay for it in the long run. Your trade with him is coming up, Mike. So
yep, there will be some thoughts on that, I'm sure. So again, the post he makes is he's not sure which way he's going. Is he going to consolidate or is he going to break it down? Or kind of go for it or build. Then he does this. Zach and Chig for Ogletree, Chow, and a bunch of future thirds and fourths.
Yeah.
Did I miss something? Did Chig lose his job?
Yeah, I wondered about that too. I didn't love it for him because I felt like it was selling low. He did get a lot of assets in that he could use those maybe, but I feel like you could have gotten a mid-second for Chig pretty easily, and he didn't do that.
Chig hasn't necessarily been impressive with the opportunities that he's been given, but like I don't see them going out and getting anybody better than him or that's really going to compete with him.
Yeah, not this year.
Right. And to my understanding, like they like Weil or whatever the guy's name is. But
yeah, Josh Wiley or whatever. Yeah.
Right. But he's not necessarily like playing the same role.
Yep.
So he's pretty safe. I don't know. I think it was a sell low.
We've got a fifth for Jameson Crowder, Sidney Brown for Brandon Stevens.
Yeah, I mean, those are fine defensive. I mean, like just random pieces to add. I don't get Crowder necessarily, but Brown, sure.
Let's see. Bears moving off of Deuce Vaughn, A.T. Perry, P.J. Locke, and their first and second next year for 121 and 202.
Yeah, that's a statement pick by Bears saying, I'm not going to be as bad as I've been.
I'm going to be better than 121.
Yeah. I mean, great getting 202 hedges that, for him because he's getting that early second, which is kind of like a late first. So that's good.
A trade like this, again, I like the statement and I like the confidence, but like you trade your first in a situation like this if you can lock in like 110 or better value for your pick. Like the example we gave earlier, the Chargers, no question. Worthy in his first for Brian Thomas Jr. locked in top 10 or greater value for his pick.
Right.
This values it around 115 or 116. At which point it's kind of like there's a lot of situations where you get less for your pick later than you did right now.
Yeah. I mean, I like it in the sense that Bears is getting rid of some guys that he doesn't want. He gets that very, very early second, which helps push his risk on the first. What I don't love about it is he was sitting so pretty finally at quarterback. And then you took Bo Nix from him, Mike. And now he's got JJ. And like, it's just like I felt like he was in a spot that felt good. And now he's back to like, what does he have at quarterback again? I'm not exactly sure.
So some
You
people
still got JJ.
He's got JJ, yeah, for sure. But it's like, oh, like, dude, you had Fields and Bo. Like you really could have rocked this thing.
So some people like the quarterback carousel.
And Bears does it like no one else, for sure,
But he will collect all the quarterbacks somehow. Much like I will try and collect all the draft picks at some point. He will have all the quarterbacks.
But I do think with Bears trade here, the good thing is that variation he gets on that first round, he gets that insulation from the guaranteed 2.02. You know, so which is pretty much a late first minus the 5th year, which to me, I prefer that, to be honest. So that help that having that added to the trade really helps him out.
Rashad Bateman for 213 and 332. I feel like every once in a while you see some of these where there are a couple of real life friends in our league. So some of these things we do, I feel like these are like bar trades. Like somehow I came up at a bar, might as well throw this out there. One side throws it out there when the other one's passed out, and the other one wakes up early this morning and accepts it.
Yeah, I didn't get that one at all. Because that's an expensive wide receiver that doesn't seem to be worth that much. Like the second I thought would have been enough at most. I wouldn't have even paid that much, but
Yeah, I agree.
so Panthers got to steal. I mean, I guess Colts gets to collect on a guy that maybe has some upside at 17 million or whatever it is.
Yeah, that extension is not fun. Speaking of things that are expensive, Jerome Ford, CeeDee Lamb, and Devin Lloyd for Myles Garrett, 119, 222, and the Commanders' first next year.
That was a big boy trade for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wanted to pivot off of his ends and some, but not all of his picks. At a cornerstone receiver, he still got a lot of the guys he drafted last year, hoping some of those develop, but he still got some work to do on that.
Yeah. I think what was hard for me with analyzing those drafts was what you had paid to get Ford and what you had got paid to get that linebacker and what you had paid to get Garrett and trying to mentally figure out how all that fit into this trade. You know, it was one of those where it was like, I am having a hard time seeing the total value exchange. Right.
Yeah. I think so. Realistically, it was a future second that I traded for Ford.
Mm-hmm.
So 222 makes that up. Lloyd probably hit a valuation probably a little bit later than, but around that 26 first. So it'll be Garrett and the 119 for CD, which
Right.
I feel is reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great deal for you. I don't really see a drastic difference in Garrett for CD. Like when I break it down, it's like the second in miles for CD, and then you got the 2 firsts for Ford and Lloyd.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
I honestly don't see how this really helps Commanders in a real way. He's pretty weak at defensive end now. His running back is still not great. He's depleted his picks.
No, he still has some decent. Like I think he has 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, no, but just the picks that he sent. Now he doesn't have those anymore. You know,
Right,
like he does have a lot of picks. Yeah,
But he's when you look at it, he's probably plugged into taking like a linebacker or a running back and an edge, like with those first-round picks, or trading them for those type of players.
Yeah, and it's just a tough division to be fighting in too, because Cowboys is doing stuff, but everybody else is pretty competitive in that division.
Manuel Wilson changing hands yet again for the 421 now. I got Myles Garrett. I now have given Myles Garrett to the Giants so he can stack Myles and what's his name, Micah Parsons. So he gets Barkley and Garrett. I get Tank Bigsby, Roshan Johnson, Kendrick Bourne, Chauncey Golston, the 105, the 228, and the 325.
Yeah, and I love this trade for you in any context that doesn't involve 40 roster spots and 100 contract years.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I mean, you got a lot of stuff. I think the 1.05 is underrated. Tank is great. Chauncey is expensive, but he's going to get you like 150 points at DE easy if you keep him. And then you got the picks, right? The other picks, like Giants got really shallow with this trade. He added 2 guys and $55 million worth of stuff, and doesn't have the picks anymore, doesn't have the players anymore. Yeah, you won. I think you win it. I don't know if people think that, but I think you won it easily.
Well, again, it's too early to tell for a lot of this stuff. And frankly, I think the 105 is equivalent, if not is equivalent to something like where Barkley would go right now. So
I agree with that. I think that's fair. I think some people don't agree with that, but I think that's fair, especially in our draft, where when you think about where our guys are going to go. RJ, I'm speaking for you, but I think you're going to take a quarterback. I think Saints is going to take a quarterback. So at 1.05, if you keep that pick, Mike, you're looking at a great wide receiver running back option.
Right.
Unless you want to go totally crazy and go quarterback 3.
Definitely.
Which that's up to you. But I'd rather go WR2 or RB2 or whatever that might be.
I'm taking Henry at 3, regardless of position. Or Hunter, I mean.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like, what's a Henry?
Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Henry, I get it. I figure that's where he's going.
I own Hunter Henry. You can have him for the 1.03 if you want him. Like, let's make that trade right now offline.
Sadly enough, I did just glance at your team, so I think that's where I got the names mixed up.
I mean, and I get liking Henry. I know guys like him. Supposedly Matt Harmon loves him as a wide receiver. Comparing him to OBJ, could get that cornerback points. But where's MFL going to put him? That's the big question, right? If they put him at CB, I got no interest in that.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think all of us are in agreement. So we see somebody maybe taking him early, but like he's a late first type of flyer pick.
Now, if he's a wide receiver who gives you wide receiver and quarterback points, that's incredible. Like, that's very interesting.
Then I say I'm taking him at 3, and everybody's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I was just saying all that to say that, like, I think that 1.05 is an underrated pick in that trade.
Yeah. I think it's a solid pick. I mean, Barkley got traded for, a trade involving the 3 and 7 prior to that. So I think a lot of us understand that he's very expensive.
Yeah. But I really think that Bigsby, at least between Bigsby and Johnson, you're getting some good production at running back at a very cheap level. I don't know what you really end up with, but it's best ball. So I was a fan, Mike. I liked it. I still want to see you fit all these guys into your roster, but I liked it.
Yeah, and I think there's more than a few guys I'm going to be cutting bait on. And again, just need to continue 3 more cycles of my roster between now and actual draft, but we'll see what happens. You putting Trey Tucker out there for a late second, but then in classic Chiefs fashion, kind of saying, if I can't get that second, how else can I pivot? Cowboys 3rd and the Raiders 3rd next year for Tucker and a 5th. So you wanted a future second in value. You got probably pretty close to it with this.
Yeah, I mean, my division of value has always been 2 future 3rds equals a future 2nd. A future 5th is fake, so whatever. But yeah, I need to make some roster spots, right? We gotta make some moves here prior to the draft.
It's true.
I do think Tucker is good though. Like, I mean, right now he's slotted in as the WR2. He's going to be the WR3 at the end of everything, but he's going to get your returns. 150 points seems pretty reasonable. Like, that's not bad for that cost.
No, not at all.
So speaking of trade for cost, I'll be honest, this next trade caught me off guard. I get that a lot of people have a late first value on Tua. And from very much, I'll call it a 2K mindset. You've got the 213 in here and a bunch of things added. So from a pure 2K mindset where you're not paying a penalty for roster spots, you added 4 additional assets to the 213. So clearly this is worth a late first. But then, kind of to your point earlier, where you've got to find roster space to actually put these guys or use these guys. Yeah, I think I was kind of team Tua all day here, but
yeah, I think this is the cheapest we've seen a quarterback go for in a long time. I can't think of another example of a starting quarterback who's got a long-term contract, who's gone this cheap, even with his injury risks. And if you look at a lot of the guys that are coming over, they're not necessarily assets you're excited about. Landon Roberts, like, yeah, maybe he's starting for the Raiders, but he's not cheap. Armstead, like, cut him. Like, I don't care how much Panthers likes fat guys, but like, I don't want to own him. Singletary, sure, like he's going to get you points, but he's still like 14 million. So at the end of the day, you traded a quarterback who, yeah, was expensive and was an injury risk, but you're getting just like a mid-second and a third and guys that you could have got on waivers or through bidding on the auction. Not ideal. I mean, I agree to disagree with anybody. I don't know what you think, RJ, but like, I'm not loving that one.
So I don't think very highly of Tua. I think he's a backup next season somewhere else. I think Miami goes 500. The whole coaching staff gets fired. He goes somewhere else. Like, I don't think highly of him. With that said, I think this was really cheap.
Yeah, I think that's the real thing. Like, I don't think anybody loves him. I don't love him. I don't want to own him, but it feels cheap. It feels cheap.
Yeah, right now he is probably the cheapest starting quarterback. A lot of things still need to be sorted out in terms of that's the starting jobs or who will the starter in this job be, but he is probably the cheapest starting quarterback.
All right. So, hour and a half. We got through a first round. We got through 18-3. Whew. That's some hard work, boys. I appreciate the time on this one. And like I said, Goose, it was nice to have you join us. I feel like it happens about once a quarter, and you never know when it's going to happen. But I'm glad that it worked out this time through.
Hey, it's spring break. The kids are with my parents right now, hanging out, playing games. So I thought I'd step out, and I just saw the two of you. I thought maybe you'd be a little lonely, and it seems like you guys always do like sweet trades during this. So I was like, maybe I could get in on this action. I don't know, like.
Well, I got to go take a piss, and then I'm down for trying to make some fun things happen. But hey, that's the fun of being involved with this stuff, to make the sweet trades or the fun things happen. So again, appreciate you guys taking the time, and let's get to the fun part.